these radical left-wing district attorneys, they get into office and they say they're not going to prosecute crimes they disagree with. The inmates start running the asylum. There's one guy in this entire country that's ever done anything about that. Me. When we had two of these district attorneys in Florida elected with Soros funding who said they wouldn't do their job, I removed them from their posts. They are gone.
That was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis boasting about firing two progressive prosecutors that were elected democratically by the people. So now he claimed in that clip that they were not doing their jobs. However, one of them was removed for actually attempting to hold everyone accountable to the law, including police officers. So in a report on Monday published in the Daily Beast, Fired prosecutor Monique Worrell said that law enforcement officers in Florida actually had collaborated with the governor's office in an effort to prevent her from taking on corrupt cops. So behind the scenes, the governor's office had quietly conspired with local sheriffs to tarnish the reputations of these democratically elected prosecutors, turning local cops against the state attorneys they're supposed to partner with and trust. Now, Worrell told the publication, quote, "They thought that I was overly critical of law enforcement and didn't do anything against real criminals." So let me just stop right there. If you're a cop and you're doing something illegal, you're also a criminal. Just saying that's kind of how the law works. Just because you may be an enforcer of the law doesn't mean that you're allowed to break laws. Very, very clear. Now, she said, apparently there seems to be a difference between citizens who commit crimes and cops who commit crimes. And certainly we have definitely seen that that's the case. Okay. So now what are the crimes here? Well, Worrell claims that she was about to crack down on some cover-ups by deputies, sheriffs, who she says were faking documents to hide abusive behavior on the force. Her account was backed up by two people who spoke to the Daily Beast on the condition of anonymity. So we're going to get into specifics here because this is a huge, huge case. So now first, let's get to some of the cases that she was cited by the DeSantis administration as having failed in her role as a prosecutor. So now, first one was, and this was all revealed to her during a Zoom call. She said that she was at home with COVID and had a meeting, and the call, she found out, was being recorded. She said that no one told me in advance that it was going to be recorded, and in that call, the sheriff that she was talking to, their disposition was very aggressive and accusatory. So she was speaking with Orlando County Sheriff John W. Mina. Began to ask her about questions about specific cases that she had failed to prosecute. One particular case mentioned was a failure to jail a known gang member who was caught with an illegal firearm. So hold on here. If she refused to jail a dangerous gang member, well, that would be pretty bad, right? Well, it turns out, though, when you get into the details, you find out that the arrest was actually illegal. Worrell's account of the case shows a stunning lack of procedure on the case of the police officers. In fact, she said that they took him into custody without a warrant, went into his pants pocket without a warrant, clicked the key fob without a warrant, went into his car without a warrant, and inside the car, they found a gun. But when the police brought this person to prosecutors, they determined that because this search and seizure was illegal of his property, they could not make a case against him. In fact, according to the prosecutors, there's this little thing called unreasonable search and seizure, kind of in the 14th Amendment, and you can't get evidence without a warrant. We were unable to go forward with charges because it was an illegal search and seizure. We had lots of communication with the sheriff's office about this case, trying to salvage the case. As the state attorney, we're not here to rubber stamp what the sheriff's office does. We can't condone that. So again, here you have a situation where police did illegal search and seizure, had an illegal arrest, okay? And as a result of them blundering, they let a potentially violent person back onto the street and decided then, when they were unable to prosecute this violent gang member, to blame the black prosecutor for following the law. and then used this incident and others to have her removed, to make that case. Now, another sheriff, Marcos R. Lopez of Osceola County, ended up gathering statistics that DeSantis would use in his executive order to fire Worrell from her position. The document, signed August 9th, complained about how only 3 people out of 32 arrested by Osceola for drug trafficking had gotten mandatory minimum prison sentences, and similar statistics for gun crimes. However, they ended up stretching those statistics to fit their narrative. How so? Well, one part of it is that they ended up counting as failures to prosecute cases resulting from December 2022 arrests that were not finished in court by the time they had compiled this report. So court cases were ongoing, but they weren't wrapped up, they weren't finished by March, and so that counted as a failure to prosecute. What? Ridiculous. They also claim in another case that Worrell's office had failed to prosecute Lorenzo Michael Larry, a 17-year-old under investigation for gunning down a young woman, but was out and remained free until he had killed his pregnant teenage girlfriend. So now they're like, how dare you let this person, this alleged murderer, go free? You failed to go after the real criminals. But wait, prosecutors then said, actually, the arresting detective hadn't turned over the official paperwork allowing us to indict him. If we had the paperwork, we could have indicted him to keep him behind bars pending trial. That's not on the prosecutor. That's on the police. That is an example of incompetence. And then, of course, blaming this prosecutor is an example of corruption. So you see what's going on here. So incompetence and corruption, by the way, is something that seems to be going on a lot in at least Florida's police, police departments. In fact, right before she was removed, Worrell's investigators were in the final stages of a long-running investigation into corruption at that same sheriff's office in Osceola County. That would be, of course, Sheriff Marcos R. Lopez. Now, one of the cases that had actually caught the attention of her investigators is when a deputy had repeatedly tased a dirt biker at a Wawa gas station, and it set off a fireball. So that video, that went viral. You're not supposed to tase people at a gas station. But no, they did that. In another, case, 2 deputies opened fire on a group of 4 men in a car at a Target parking lot who appeared to have stolen items from the store minutes earlier. So this was basically using lethal force against shoplifters. What? 1 ended up dying. 2 were, gravely injured. Okay, and so those are the cases that initially caught the eye of Worrell's office, and so they just started to look into them. And in the process of investigating those cases and the misconduct there, they actually started finding evidence of much more misconduct. Officers signing each other's reports, getting them notarized in other people's names, doing forgery, and all sorts of fraudulent documents, basically covering up this illegality and these abuses being performed by police officers. And so when all that's going on, when you have this error, this corruption, this incompetence, which the corruption is covering up, and just this utter disregard for people's civil rights. Yes, just because you have committed a crime doesn't mean that you lose all of your civil rights. You still have those rights. You still should not be subject to a legal search and seizure, but these police officers did not care. They were empowered by DeSantis and the Republicans basically looking away and saying, we don't see anything, go ahead and do your thing. And when this prosecutor comes in and says, I can't actually try these cases because of the fact that you effed up so horrendously and violated these people's civil rights. I can't do anything. My hands are tied by the law, by the Constitution. And they said, no. See, you're gonna do what we tell you to do. You're gonna go after these people, even though we violated their civil rights, because you're supposed to be on our side. But no, she's not supposed to be on your side. She's supposed to be on the side of the law. She's supposed to be on the side of the Constitution, which is something apparently all these sheriffs in Florida that have been implicated in this, and all these departments don't actually care for. They are the thugs. They are the criminals as well. So no wonder these departments and DeSantis wanted her gone, because at the end of the day, they liked that corruption. They loved it when they were allowed to act like the Gestapo as police officers, and they liked ignoring certain people's constitutional rights. I'll leave it up to you to, figure out what kind of people were targeted most by these police officers. And they love it when prosecutors turn a blind eye, like the one that is going to replace Worrell. This is a good example here of how, in Florida at least, police do not serve the community, do not serve the people. They serve a corrupt government and a corrupt governor.